Hi lovelies, it's Funtor here and welcome. So I just want to talk about some popular newborn essentials that I didn't end up buying, mostly out of indecision. So I intended to get them and I just never got round to it. And then I realised I don't actually need this, and a few where I researched them and I thought, you know what, perhaps I can do without them. So hopefully this will be helpful for you. Let's get into it. A baby lounger. So these are the massive pillows and you can basically pop your baby in them, and it's meant to be a good way for them to hang out, play, and if you just want a break from carrying them, you can pop them down in a baby lounger. So the main reason why I didn't get one is that you're not actually supposed to allow your newborn to sleep in them. And I just know myself, if she's cozy and comfortable and she drifts off to sleep, I wouldn't want to wake her up. And once you get into a habit of allowing your little one to sleep in a baby lounger, it can be really hard to break that habit. And I was just like, yeah, I don't think this is gonna work for me. And I'm actually glad I didn't get one because I don't think I needed it. What I would do is use my next to me crib bassinet, take it off the legs, pop that down in the living room, and I'd allow her to rest in that, and it was also safe for her to sleep in. So if she did fall asleep, it didn't really matter, it was perfectly safe for her. And I'd also use my playmat as well, so if she was doing tummy time, she could be on the playmat, and if she was just chilling on her back, she could also stay on the playmat. It was nice and cushioned and comfy, so if she fell asleep, it was perfectly safe for her as well. And as it turns out, since I had those two products, I didn't really need the baby lounger, so I'm glad I didn't invest in one. A Moses basket. So the main reason why I didn't buy a Moses basket is because they're really beautiful and I love the aesthetic, but I actually wasn't sure whether or not I would need one because my travel system came with a bassinet, and then my next to me crib came with a bassinet that you could remove from the legs. So I actually had two products that could fulfill this function, and I thought, you know what, I'll give these a go. If they work for me, great, and then if I still need a Moses basket, then I can get one. And as it turns out, I didn't need one in the end. An electric rocking crib. So this is something that was actually a bit contentious with me and my husband. He's like all for the tech. He was like, anything's gonna make life easier and it's gonna make it easier for baby to sleep. Let's get it, let's try it. And I just wasn't too convinced by the cribs that could rock. And I'm actually glad in the end that we didn't buy one. It was largely due to indecision, and then we ended up just not needing it. So what I found is that I would end up rubbing her, patting her back, and she'd drift off that way anyway. So we wouldn't have had much need of a rocking crib. And another thing I really didn't want was anything that required maintenance, repair, charging, batteries, anything like that. To me just felt like an additional burden or another thing that I'd have to think about, and I didn't want to have to deal with an item that needed additional care. So that was the reason why we didn't opt for it, and I'm kind of glad we didn't, because now that we've been sleep training her as well, having a crib that rocks actually interferes with that process, because your baby can get really used to that rocking motion, they can get quite attached to it, and in the absence of a rocking crib, they might not be able to sleep. So in hindsight, it actually may have interfered with us trying to sleep train her, which would have been another hurdle to overcome. A baby walker. So this could be one of those little play rings that has little leg holes and your baby can sit in it and walk around, or it could be one of those hanging seats that you can hang in a door frame and your baby can bounce around on it on their legs. So the main reason why I didn't buy one was I just thought as a newborn, she's too young for it anyway, and when we get to that stage we can figure out whether or not we need one. And when I did come to that stage, I actually started to research on it, and my main concern was the potential interference with her physical development. And I was checking on the NHS website. I'll pop a link down below to anything that I found. And one of the links was explaining how sometimes these walkers can actually interfere with your baby's natural development. And that was a real concern for me. I didn't want her to end up developing bad habits with walking on her toes or affecting the natural strength in her legs and how she would ordinarily develop that strength. So I just thought, you know what, I'm going to stay clear of it. I didn't want to interfere with her development, and I'm actually glad that we did, because she's absolutely been perfectly fine figuring out how to crawl, and now she's starting to pick herself up on her legs, and it's perfectly happening at the right time of development as well. So there have been no concerns there, and she's very content with figuring out how to walk and stand on her own. A playpen. So the reason why we didn't buy a playpen straight away for our newborn was that we knew she wouldn't get much use out of it as a newborn. It'd be more helpful when she's a little bit more mobile and a little bit older. And now that she has gotten to a stage where she could use a playpen, she started to crawl and explore the home, we've actually found that we enjoy to just leave her to be free to crawl around and explore and be curious. And I actually feel like a playpen might limit her exploration and her creativity. So what we've done instead is we've cleared everything on the floor in every room. We make sure that we keep our carpets really clean, and there's nothing on the ground or at a low level that could be harmful for her or that she can pick up and damage. And we found that that's been working really well for us so far. So I'll keep you updated if anything changes on that. But we just don't think a playpen is that useful for our lifestyle. Now, I appreciate that might not work so well for everyone. I think if you maybe need to have your baby in a safe space while you pop out of the room or while you're working, for example, then a playpen might be a useful option for you. But I would say that if you do have the option of clearing your space and making it baby friendly in that way, it might be worth considering over purchasing a playpen. A baby sling. So this is actually a product that I did buy, but I just couldn't figure out how to wrap my baby in it. And by the time I did figure out how to wrap my newborn, I found that it was a little bit awkward. Like, she seemed like her neck was a little bit squashed. And there were also times when I would have her on my chest and she'd be sleeping, and it kind of felt like her neck wasn't supported very well. So if I wanted to bend down to pick up something, or if I moved around too much, I could kind of see her head starting to bobble around. So it could be that I just didn't use the sling correctly, or it was just too complicated and I didn't have the patience for it, but it just didn't work for me. And I found an actual baby carrier was a lot easier, and it gave better support to her neck as well. Lots of tiny baby outfits. This is a really hard one because I also, when she was a newborn, loved shopping for her. I'd just go online, look at all the cute dresses and the shoes and the tights and all of the cute little outfits. But the reality is, as a newborn, they just sleep most of the time and they don't go out that much. And so I ended up mostly using zipped baby grows, and that was really comfy for her, especially because she would sleep a lot of the time. And the odd times when she would leave the house, which wasn't very often as a newborn, I still just kept her in her baby grow because it was so comfortable. And also on top of that, we were gifted a lot of outfits. So people were really generous and kind. They bought her outfits not just as a newborn, but for when she was a bit older as well. So I've actually found that I haven't had to buy her many baby clothes. The main items of clothing that I've bought her have been her baby grows and the sleep suits that she wears maybe underneath her clothing, things like that, to keep her warm and to make sure that she's dressed in layers that are appropriate for her. Trust me, people love buying baby clothes for you, so you might actually save yourself a bit of money if you hold off buying the outfits. Someone just might give you one. And a note on baby shoes. I know probably mixed feelings on them, but I would say they're not the most useful thing. I found that she'd rarely need to wear them. Maybe the only occasion where she has actually worn them and needed them was for her christening, and we just thought it looked cute with her outfit, but they did fall off, and so she didn't wear them for half of the time anyway. Teddies. So toys are another gift that I found people like to give, and so our daughter actually has quite a lot of teddies, but she's only been able to hold on to things and pick up toys in the past couple of months. So as a newborn, she didn't really care about it, and it's only now that she's a bit older that she can actually interact with those teddies. And I found that actually the teddies tend to not be as engaging for her all the time compared to other toys that are maybe high contrast, like a black and white book or the crunchy rustling toys. Those seem to be more stimulating and exciting for her than having teddies. And the main thing is that because you're going to be gifted them anyway, we just found it's not worth buying, and she hasn't really played with them much anyway. Hooded baby towels. So this is one we just found that we haven't really needed. I ended up just buying some fluffy towels to use specifically for her. So we bought her a set of hand towels for when she was a newborn, and now that she's a bit bigger, we just have a separate bath sheet for her. It's super fluffy, and it's actually quite nice to have a big towel because we can wrap her up anyway. And we just found that we didn't really need a hood. Once the towel's big enough to wrap all of her in, it can go over her head and it performs the same function but with a bit more flexibility. So just haven't really needed them. A changing table. So we ended up not getting a specific changing table and rather just opted for her usual chest of drawers with a changing mat on top. That's what's behind me if you can see it. So we just have the chest of drawers and we have her changing mat and we have a basket, a changing basket next to it. And that works perfectly fine for us. It's a good height for both of us, and we found that that's just a little bit more versatile than having a specific changing table that maybe at some point, if we didn't want to use as a changing table, we weren't sure if we wanted to be stuck with that function. Swaddles. So I know there's lots of ideas on swaddling. Some people say that it's perfect to help their newborn sleep, but the main reason why I didn't end up buying swaddles was that I wanted to see how my baby was when she arrived and test out what she would like before investing too much in lots of swaddles. And one of the first things that we were told in the hospital before we'd even gone home with her, I asked about swaddling my baby and the best way for her to sleep, and they actually said that they only swaddle premature babies or babies with a low birth weight, and that's to kind of mimic that womb environment because they just need a little extra comfort. But what we found is that she actually enjoyed sleeping with her hands quite close to her face so that she could pacify herself and soothe herself to sleep with her hands. So I didn't actually want to strap her hands away and take away that soothing process from her. And then we also very much followed the sleeping guidelines suggested by the NHS and the Lullaby Trust, which say that you should simply put a blanket over your baby's legs and you can keep their arms outside. And we just found that she enjoyed that and it worked quite well for us, and she seemed to sleep quite well without being swaddled. What I would say is that if you would like to swaddle your baby, perhaps you could try swaddling them with a muslin blanket. So one of the things that we've gotten tons of use out of are muslin squares, and we actually bought quite big ones, which meant that when she was little, if we did want to swaddle her, we did try it here and there. We could swaddle her with the muslin blankets, and in the event that we chose not to swaddle her, we could also just use them for other things. They're super versatile, so perhaps you could try swaddling with a muslin blanket, and if you do love swaddling, then you can invest in more swaddles. Dummies or pacifiers. So I actually did buy a couple of dummies just to have on hand, and the main reason why we didn't end up using them is because in the early 2 weeks, the first 2 weeks of having my baby, I really struggled with getting breastfeeding right. It was quite painful and I just wasn't sure if she was latching properly, and so we had a lactation consultant who came to our home in the first week, and she actually encouraged us not to use dummies straight away because they can actually mask your newborn's hunger. So for us, we just stayed clear of it while we were establishing breastfeeding, and by the time that was done, after the first 2 to 4 weeks, and we did start offering her a pacifier, she just didn't really take to them, and we found that she didn't seem to need them either. She was able to suck her hands if she did want extra comfort, and she would often fall asleep perhaps while she was feeding as well. So we didn't end up using the dummy so much, and we've ended up getting to a place where she hasn't really needed them much at all. Now I know that's not for everyone. I know dummies can be super instrumental for helping babies sleep, so I would say just do your research on how to use them, when to wean your baby off them, and how they can be best used and managed in a way that's optimal for both you and your little one. So that's it for popular newborn products that I didn't buy. Let me know what you think in the comments down below, if there are any products that you would say are still essential or any others that you would avoid as well. I do hope that this was helpful, and if it was, please give this a thumbs up and consider subscribing for more videos like this one. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye!